than birds, but because it
Oh.
is so dry here in Las Vegas, nothing can survive out here. So you don't have to worry that it's very dry. There's no humidity. Bugs can't survive. So in the summer, you may see some ants or something, but
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, bugs cannot survive out here in the desert. So there's no problem with
That's good
bugs.
to know.
Yeah, I like it. I cannot stand the snow anymore. Putting chains on my tires, no more. Ooh.
Uh,
Well, thank you so much for joining me, Stormy. Stishana and Trina. This is going to be a great live session. It is our introduction to contracts. I am thrilled to be your teacher for this course. This is my 23rd. Oh my gosh, I've been teaching since 98. So, wow, that means like this fall it'll be 24 years. That's absolutely insane. It's insane. But I got my law degree, I was just telling Trina, at the University of San Diego. And I practiced law in San Diego for a while. I practiced law in Northern California too. So I've worked with paralegals. I know what it is that you all have to go through. And sometimes paralegals do the same work that attorneys do. So I'm very familiar with, what it is you're going through and your experience, and I'm thrilled to be your contracts professor. Contracts was one of my favorite classes in law school, and I actually got an American Jurisprudence Award for contracts, so I feel pretty comfortable teaching this subject, and I know what it's all about. So this is gonna be a wonderful, wonderful term. And let's have each one of you introduce yourselves. Let's start out with Trina.
oh, do you want me to unmute it, right?
Yes, you're perfect.
Um, so I'm Trina and I'm from Minnesota and I'm majoring in the paralegal and I have 4 kids.
Perfect. What do you hope to do with your paralegal certificate?
I was looking at a couple of different areas in law firms. Like I'm either going for the family law or the criminal.
That's exciting. I did a
I
lot of
haven't seen it
research in
yet.
criminal law when I was in law school, and the reason I didn't go into criminal law, I'll just be honest, is I do not like being in jails and prisons. It doesn't smell good. Family law, it'll be much more of a posh environment, so it's just whether or not you want to get down and dirty and gritty with the criminal element. I
Mm-hmm.
used to teach in a prison, so I taught correctional officers, but it was like one level below maximum security. So I know what kind of that environment is. I don't
Oh
really like
wow.
that environment,
Mm-hmm.
but if you can stand it, like I love watching Forensic Files and all those criminal reenactment
Oh yep,
shows.
me
Do
too.
you like those?
Mm-hmm.
It is exciting, and there always be tons of work in either family law or criminal law because people are always committing crimes and people are always getting divorced. So,
Yeah, I like the fast paced environment and I like to stay busy. As a
perfect.
as I do stay
Well,
busy with the 4 kids.
oh, that's wonderful.
So yep.
Thank you for that great introduction, Trina. Let's hear from Stishana.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, yeah, I'm Stashana. I've been in school since 2020. I'm trying to be a paralegal. I want to do criminal law. I think it's really interesting criminal law. Though I took, I want to say the spring semester or spring trimester. I took criminal law, a little introduction into that, and it was pretty cool. I
It's
like it.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Where do you live?
Oh, I live in Minnesota.
Awesome. Have you ever taken any classes on ground at Rasmussen University there on site?
I did it when I started. It was like the whole Corona pandemic, the whole beginning. So that's when they did everything online, and I just stuck with online.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, criminal law is fascinating. Every time I watch a criminal reenactment, it absolutely blows my mind. And in my work, I probably read about 100,000 criminal appeals. So understanding the criminal mind is so different from the way that we think. But it's really fascinating to really, and there's major patterns to what you see in crimes, like child sexual abuse is an absolute epidemic in this country.
Yeah.
Murder, and the motive for certain crimes, like I don't know if you ever remember the John Bonet Ramsey case. She was a beauty queen in Boulder, and she was killed on Christmas night, I think 1996. They never solved that case, and you really have to, once you start looking into these criminal reenactment and these cold cases, and you start looking at the forensic evidence and the DNA aspect of it alone is just fascinating, and how they're using DNA now to solve all of these crimes that have gone unsolved for years. Um, so yeah, it's really fascinating. And while, to be honest, crime is not as high right now as it was in the late 80s, surprisingly. The In terms of the FBI's and the criminal statistics show that crime was actually the highest around like 89. So in terms of violent crime and so forth, it really went down in the 90s, and there has, since the pandemic, there has been an upswing in murders and some other criminal activity since the pandemic. And of course, domestic abuse is on the rise because people are stuck at home with their unhappy spouses more. So there's just a lot going on in criminal law, and I'm sure you'll easily find a job, in that field. So that's great. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Let's hear from Stormy.
Hello, how is everyone?
Great. I love your name. I love
Um,
that song,
yeah,
Stormy.
bring back those sunny days.
Yep, yep, yep. I grew up listening to that kind of music. It's
That's
groovy.
funny. Um, hey Trina and Stashana, we've had a couple classes together, so that's cool because we've communicated a little bit. So I'm excited to see your names up there again. Always had good communication and feedback for discussion. So happy to see you two. I'm from Massachusetts and I am getting a paralegal degree. Reason being, after 32 years in the restaurant industry and the pandemic and all that fun stuff, the restaurant industry no longer interests me. My passion is gone. Unfortunately, this pandemic has brought out the worst in some people who still want services but don't understand the guidelines that we're to follow. So I decided, well, 32 years in restaurants, great. What else can I do? But then I made a list of everything I did as a general manager for all these years. And I realized, I could probably be a really good paralegal. So that's what brings me here. Outside of that, I have my husband of 24 years. I always, I think it's 24 years. No, 23 years. I have a daughter who's 24 and one who's about to be 20, and a couple of doggies and a couple of rabbits. And that's about it. That's me.
That's wonderful. Do you live anywhere near Boston?
I'm like about 45 miles south of Boston.
Boston is one of my favorite cities in America. When I was in college, I was a YMCA student rep, and our headquarters is in Boston on the Green Line. So when I was in college, I got two all expense paid trips to Boston, and it was just mind blowing. I love the history, Sam Adams, and
Uh-huh.
the food is absolutely fantastic. I've never had better food, I think, in Boston. And Fennoy Hall,
Uh-huh.
I absolutely love Boston. So I adore that you're from there. And as far as the legal field there, I mean, the opportunities to work as a paralegal in Massachusetts is just going to be wonderful. There's tons of opportunities for you. So that's just fantastic. Thank you for your introduction.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's get started. So contracts is what we're going to be learning for the next 5.5 weeks. Okay, so module 1, we had our introduction. Is everyone familiar with Blackboard? Let me share my web browser, and we'll go into the online classroom and just look at a few things. I like to do that during this first live session. If I can, want to, let me just go to Google. There we go. Go into the online classroom and take a look at a few things that are going on here and some of our tools and resources. We have a ton of resources for paralegal students. So Blackboard is our learning management system. We call it an LMS. And in the computer world, this is a GUI, which is a graphical user interface. So it's important to know a little bit of techie stuff. So a GUI is the interface that you see when you're interacting with a specific program on the computer. So this is a graphical user interface. So here we are in winter quarter term 1. Some of if you go right here under books and tools, it will take you to library resources. And as paralegal students, you want to be very familiar with all of your library resources, library services, programs, School of Justice. Excuse me. Sorry. I haven't sneezed in ages. Okay, so here's the School of Justice.
Bless you. Sorry, I said bless you, and then I realized you couldn't hear me.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. So here is our Justice Studies librarian. Dennis is very familiar with all of the online legal research formats and forums. So if you ever need to get help using Lexis Advance or doing research, you can always email him. You can chat with him and schedule an appointment. He's very knowledgeable. If you ever need tutoring, we use Tutor Match. You can just click on tutoring and you can set up a tutoring session with Becky, Maria, and Cindy. You can also let me know and then I can set up Tutor Match for you. So that works out really well. And as far as your research, Library and Learning Services webinar, the APA format. And for this course, what we'll be using is the Blue Book format. So let me go back into go back into the classroom. Books and tools. There it is. Awesome. So for your module 1 assignment, for example, you'll need to do legal research. So it's a written assignment about offer, which is one of the elements of a valid contract. Content and settings. There we go. And so what you want to do is under here, it says your paper should be 3 to 5 pages in length. That's double spaced with 3 references formatted according to Blue Book standards. So you want to know what the Blue Book standards are. So you want to click on the Blue Book. And here at Rasmussen University, we use the Indigo Blue Book format. So when you're citing to cases, you want to use the Indigo Blue Book format. Here is an example of a citation to a Supreme Court case. That would be a physical book. There are books. Some law firms still have these books. Everything for us will be electronic. That's the volume number of the book. And that's the page number where the case that you're referencing in your memorandum will be found. Do we need a cover page and a reference page for written assignments? Yes. You do need the cover page. However, I will preface that with, if you're submitting a legal memorandum, you can use the memorandum format. See if I can find that on here. Here we go. There's a format for a legal memo. You can format yours as a memo, which would say to, from. How do I create a legal memo? What does one look like? Here we go. So if you would like to use this caption here, and the assignment is asking you to submit a legal memorandum, you do not need a cover page. So I will preface that. If you put the to, the from, the date, and the ray, then I will know who wrote the paper, and you don't really need the APA title page. So what you need are in-text citations. So the title page is not required. A list of references is not required unless the assignment asks for one. But you do need, if you're submitting a memorandum, you need to follow this format. Here it is, the legal memo template. Can you see this? Awesome. So that's what you need. Here it's single space. I prefer that you submit yours double spaced. Makes it easier for the court to read, makes it easier for the judge to read, makes it easier for your supervising attorney to read. But since this one is not double spaced, it's discretionary. If something is 3 to 5 pages and you double space it, that's a lot shorter. So yeah, if the assignment is not a memo, then you do need a cover page, because otherwise you wouldn't have anything to put your name on. All right, let me go back to there it is. Okay, so the other resources that you need to know are how to access Lexis Advance and how to access Fastcase. There we go. And it's under Paralegal. I clicked on Paralegal, Fastcase, and that's all from the Rasmussen Online Library, the School of Justice webpage. So here's Fastcase. So if you need to research a case, you will simply go to Fastcase or Lexis Advance. I'm going to do Fastcase. And you can do what's called a natural language search if you're looking for elements of a valid contract. You want to find a case about that is from Minnesota. You could type it in here, or you can go under this jurisdiction and resources and select Minnesota. Right now, Michigan is selected. We want to select Minnesota, save and continue. There it is. It's right there. So now I'm looking for Minnesota cases. And then you click the query, run your search. You always want to cite to the most recent case that is on topic. Now, I don't know why I didn't get it hit. Elements of a valid contract. There's the Minnesota, and then run my search. There we go. So here are the results. it's sorting them by relevance, which would mean how many hits in terms of these words, elements of a contract. But what I want is to have it sorted by date, because I want the newest case that came out of the court, because an old case may not be good law. So here's one. And for some reason I'm on Michigan. I want it to be in Minnesota. Yeah, I actually read this case. um, this is a question about payment of medical services under insurance, and that would not be the case I would really want. I want a case that is about a contract that's been breached. I do not want a case that is about insurance law. Here's one about a self-storage unit. Plaintiff filed a breach of contract case against defendant. So if I wanted to know what the elements of a contract are, this case tells me. Party asserting a breach of contract must establish by a preponderance of the evidence that there was a contract, the other party breached, and there were damages. A valid contract requires 5 elements: competency, subject matter, consideration, mutuality of agreement, and mutuality of obligation. So those elements might vary, but this is how the court in Michigan has stated those elements. So that is how you would use fast case to find a case. Any questions? Anyone want me to run a particular search in fast case? I wanted Minnesota. There we go. Can everyone still hear me? Everyone's still there? Awesome. So yeah, it seems pretty easy. This is called a natural language search, elements of a valid contract. And I'm searching Minnesota cases only because you're in Minnesota. And when you are dealing with a Minnesota case and a Minnesota client, you want to cite a case from your state. So here's one. Here we go. The elements of a valid contract are offer, acceptance, and meeting of the minds regarding the essential terms. So that would also be a good case to cite. Okay, any questions? Let me get back to our live session, close down all of these sites. I just wanted to show you some of the basic resources that are available. I'm gonna,
I have a question.
wow, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, did that come across really loud?
No, it didn't.
Oh, okay. So as far as the reference page, if we're doing in-text citation, do we still need to have one?
No.
No. Okay. And then I just happened to see, I think Trina asked if we can use Lexis Advance, and I was wondering the same.
Yes, you can.
Perfect. Thank you.
I actually think that Lexis Advance is probably more reliable.
I find it
Either one will
easier
work.
and more user-friendly for sure.
Great. All right, so those are our tools. So let's get down to the subject matter, which is contract law. So we're going to go through some basics that any student of the law would need to know about contracts. And the first thing is always, well, what is a contract anyway? Have any of you ever dealt with a contract in your life at all? Stormy says yes. What was it?
Well,
Oh, credit card agreement.
as a general manager, kind of like the third party, I was the person in the middle of setting up all of our equipment vendors and anybody who would come out and service the restaurant through their own company. So I would enter into contracts for, say, landscaping or whatever the case would be.
Excellent. Yes, that's a service contract. Great. So, yeah, we deal with contracts in our daily lives. There are marriage contracts, there are insurance contracts, there are contracts to buy homes, contracts to rent property, there are leases. There are all kind of contracts that we're dealing with. So, a contract is a set of promises for which the law provides a remedy in the terms of the breach of contract cause of action. Who are the parties to the contract? The offeror, that's always the person doing. That's the person who makes the offer. The offeree is the person to whom the offer is made. What are the three elements of a valid contract? This may be stated differently depending on where you look. Because of the complexity of our legal system, every state has its own body of the law, and the federal government also has its body of the law. I'll just give you a brief historical background on the law. As you know, the United States was originally a British colony. So the early settlers brought the law over from England that they knew. And in England, a contract was offer, acceptance, and consideration. So we stick with that basic idea that those are the three elements of a contract. Different states may define those words or define it a little bit differently, but for our purposes, there are three elements of a contract. What are they, Trina? What are the three elements of a contract? That's okay. Stormy can tell us if you want to, or stay Shauna. What are the three elements of a contract?
Offer, exception, and consideration.
Correct. So for our purposes, if you have offer, which is an expression of an intent to be contractually bound to specific indefinite terms, I offer, Stashana, to sell you my book. If you accept, that would be you promising and giving and indicating a willingness to be contractually bound by the terms of the offer. So if I offer to sell you my book for $100 and you say, yes, I will buy your book for $100, that's a contract. The consideration is anything of legal value that is bargained for. So what we are bargaining for in a contract for the sale of a book would be, I'm bargaining for the money, you're bargaining for the book. So as long as you have offer, acceptance, consideration, you have a contract. You does not need to be in writing. Oral contracts. Contracts can be written or oral. Obviously, a written contract would be easier to enforce. Why do you think a written contract is easier to enforce, Trina?
Sorry, I had to go in the other room. The boys are being loud. So hold on a minute. Okay, so what was that?
Yeah, we were just talking about contracts can be in writing or they could be oral. Why do you think it would be better to have a contract in writing?
It's probably better because it's like more valid, I suppose, and more promising.
What do you get in a written contract? Have you ever seen a written contract like a lease or a mortgage? What does it tell you?
Yeah, it just states like what like details, like a lease would be like what, when your rent is due or what involves when you move out, like what you need to clean or all the specific
Right.
details.
So yeah, you get the terms of the contract when it's in writing. And if somebody sues for breach of contract, you have a document that you can go into court with and say, look, judge, here's the terms of my contract. I have them right here in writing. Well, when you have an oral contract, the contract would also have terms. For example, Anne talks to her next door neighbor, Bob's son, and asks him if he will mow her lawn for $20. Bob doesn't say anything. He puts gas in the lawnmower, he pushes it over to Anne's house and starts mowing her lawn. Now, if Anne does not pay Bob for mowing the lawn and Bob has to go to small claims court to sue, he doesn't have a written agreement. It was oral, but he can still prove that a contract has been formed through his testimony. So testimony in a court of law is just as good as any other form of evidence as long as the judge and jury believes you. So if Bob is a credible witness, he could say, Your Honor, Anne asked me to mow her lawn. I mowed the lawn. I put gas in the lawnmower. I worked. I mowed the lawn, and Anne didn't pay me. Now, if the judge believes that Bob is a credible witness, that testimony can establish an oral contract. So oral agreements are enforceable. Let's talk specifically about the element of offer. What is an offer? It is a complete legal offer. It is a promise of a future performance. I will mow your lawn, or I will pay you. I will perform this contract. I will supply goods to your company. I will fix your computer. It is a description of what each side gets, and it provides a way to determine when each side has to perform. So an offer might say, I will supply 10,000 nails for your construction project on Friday. Do you think that's a valid offer, Stashana? I will provide 10,000 nails for your construction project by Friday.
Yes.
Does it describe what each side gets?
Yes.
What do I get for providing the nails?
Oh, hold on. Say it again. I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't hear it right. All I heard is I know Friday, which is it's a close future date. Well, it's recent because I read the other video and that was in the inbox said the same thing. The description you said the nails. I don't know. You didn't say anything about what you get.
Okay, so to have a valid offer,
Yeah.
can everyone hear me? To have a valid offer, you need a description of what each side gets. So that offer might be deemed incomplete because I did not say what it was I was exchanging for the 10,000 nails. Am I exchanging your performance? Am I exchanging money for the nails? What am I exchanging for the nails? So if I had said, I will deliver 10,000 nails on Friday if you pay me $2,000, I think that would be a complete offer. But without a description of what each side gets, a court might deem that to be an incomplete offer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be a written contract in the photo. If an offer is accepted, it immediately becomes a contract that is enforceable in a court of law. An example would be a clothes washer purchased with a rental with an option to buy or rent to own plan. I remember when I got out of college, I had a job, but I wasn't making much money. So when I moved to a new state, I went into a rent to own place and bought some furniture for my bedroom. And then the agreement had a lot of terms in it. And I signed it. And what happened a couple days later is the seller delivered the furniture described in the contract. So if I accept an offer, for example, the seller says, I will sell you bedroom furniture with rent to own, rental with an option to buy. I sign the contract, and then the seller delivers the furniture. That would be an enforceable agreement. There cannot be uncertainty about which item is being sold. The time of delivery would need to be specific as well. The offer dollar amount needs to be filled in. The exact times of payment would need to be covered in the offer. So yeah, if you've ever done a rent to own agreement, or if you've ever even purchased a car, you know that there's a ton of tiny details in there, because for that written contract to be valid, what each party's duties and obligations are must be spelled out. The time for performance must be spelled out. The dollar amount of the payments, when the payments are due, all of that needs to be spelled out to have an enforceable contract. Let's take a look at an example. Enforceable offer. Price, consideration, and sufficient terms. Imagine that Bill wants to be hired by Ron and June to paint their house. All of the terms are oral except for a brief unsigned bid that is not a complete sentence. Paint Ron and June siding on their house, $1,500 for labor, homeowners to pay for supplies to be completed this summer. The rest of the terms are oral and include information such as it must be a workmanlike job. Bill is to scrape and paint with primer and finish coat. He must use the paint that Ron and June choose. Bill needs to bring his own ladders. So this is all oral. Stormy, do you think that this is an enforceable offer?
I would say no, because everything's not spelled out in the contract. There's it gives only a partial scope of work with a labor amount, but doesn't set out any terms as far as when payment is due and to pay for supplies, things like that. So just based off of it being that one sentence, I would say no.
Okay, the unsigned bid contains that sentence, but a contract does not have to be in writing,
Oh, a
Stormy.
bid. Okay, I'm sorry. That's not to the contract yet. So then I would say yes, because then they can sit down together and add in all of the terms and the scope of work and when payments should be made and derive the contract from the bid.
Right. So the parties spoke in this example, and they said Bill has to scrape and paint the house with a primer. He has to use a finish coat. He must use the paint that the homeowners choose. Bill needs to bring his own ladders. He needs to do it in a workmanlike manner. So if you take that unsigned bid and the terms that the parties discussed, I think that would be an enforceable offer, because a contract doesn't have to be in writing. Okay, let's take a look at your Module 1 written assignment. Just to make sure I get this scenario right, I'm going to go back um, into our classroom. There it is. Now, I'm going to go back into the online classroom and get the facts of this case. There it is. Make sure I've got everything right in the scenario that you'll be applying for your assignment. Which is your Module 1 written assignment, due on Sunday, Okay, so, all right. Here is the scenario for your Module 1 assignment. Leo, the owner of Riverway Construction, says he'll re-roof our one-story house for a lower price than anyone else bid. We showed him a bid from Wright State Construction. He thought that was a good bid, but he says he can do the roof for $6,500. So in the scenario that you'll be using for your assignment, June is the homeowner. June and Ron are homeowners. Leo said he and his construction crew can do the roof for $6,500, which was less than the Wright fixed written bid. If assuming that June is not satisfied with how the roof was fixed, June and Ron could bring a lawsuit for breach of contract. So that's our scenario that we're dealing with in Module 1. Let me go back. So you are the paralegal in this Module 1 written assignment. You're going to interview your clients about the oral contract to repair the roof. And you'll need to answer these questions in your own words. Why might an attorney recommend that an oral contract be put in writing, even when an oral one is valid and there are witnesses to the terms? You can use your lesson notes. Comment personally on the transcript of your client interview. How do you feel the way that the paralegal conducted the interview? And what would you do if you were interviewing clients in this breach of contract matter? If you were the interviewer, would you use a printed intake form and mark it with handwriting? What else would you do as a paralegal to make notes when you're interviewing a client? 3, recommend 3 open-ended questions to ask your clients at a follow-up interview, and 2 questions which you're going to ask for any documents that apply to this breach of contract case. 4, based on what you know so far, was the oral agreement based on a complete offer or an incomplete offer? Always argue both sides, because there's always 2 sides to every issue. As you know, if you watch any of these criminal or these law shows, there's 2 sides. Use the lesson notes, specify areas of uncertainty. You have the option of using an application table to compare incomplete and complete offers and identify characteristics of a complete offer. The table will help you apply the facts of the assignment scenario to legal issues, facts, and cited authority from the reading. Again, you can use the lecture notes as authority. You need 3 references. Let me see if I can share with you this intake form. Share content. And the file, there's a link to the file in the assignment also. I'm going to try to share it with you if I can find it. It's optional. Some students like to use it, some students don't. Let me go back into the online classroom and grab it. Web browser, go back. Google. I was looking at Rasmussen, Blackboard, Google. There we go. Okay. take a look at what the application table looks like. Download the application table. Use and complete the application table to determine the characteristics of incomplete and complete offers. Download this file. This file's in Microsoft Word. Open up this file. Share file. Download. Libraries. Application table. Alrighty, so this is in Microsoft Word. So here's the application table. Facts, questions, legal issues, and citations. So this is a way of breaking down and analyzing a legal problem. The application table helps a lot of students. As a paralegal, you want to have the name of your clients, Ron and June Smith. They're the homeowners that are going to be suing for breach of the contract to replace the roof. The defendant is Leo and his company, Riverway Construction. That's the adverse side. You would want to know his name and address in case you need to serve papers on him. The issue is the roof replacement. What documents do we need? Are there any legal issues? Oral bid. Was it a competitive bid? How was the bid written? Some of the issues, discount from the other contractor's bid. Do we have any follow-up questions about the bid? The roof replacement was done, but no soffits and the fascia was not done. Do I have any follow-up questions? When was the work billed? Are there any bills? Are there any documents? Dan Webster, is he the neighbor? Will I need to interview him? So that's an example of an application table. It's another way of breaking down a problem. Some people think better when it's organized like this into a table, depending on how people think. Some people may think in a way where they don't need to use the table. Okay, any questions about that? Awesome. So the main thing is your paper should be 3 to 5 pages in length with 3 references. So when you're talking about whether or not there was a complete offer, you may choose to do research on Lexis Advance, look in your state, and look for cases that talk about incomplete offers versus complete offers. If there are cases about people, painting people painting houses or people repairing roofs, and whether or not that contract was completed and what the terms were. When you're doing legal research, what you're trying to find is a judicial precedent to put before the court. Okay, because this is a service contract, there won't be any rules. The only thing that would be possible would be the statute of frauds, which requires certain agreements to be in writing. So I think this will mostly be cases. Come module 2, we'll be looking at the Uniform Commercial Code, which applies to contracts for the sale of goods greater than $500. As this is a service contract, I don't think that you'll need to cite to any rules at this time. It will mostly be cases and information, right from your lesson notes about a complete versus an incomplete offer, or a complete versus an incomplete contract, since that's really the issue here, is whether this contract to repair the roof was complete. Let's take a look at the grading rubric. Share the web browser again. Awesome, I'm already in the assignment. Grading rubric. So all of your grading rubric will be completely standardized. Everyone is being graded according to objective criteria. You know, students used to think, you know, your grade would be based on how much I like you. It isn't. Your grade is all based on whether or not your essay meets this objective and standard criteria. One is the importance of writing. Do you make a good and clear use of the lecture notes? You'll be graded on the interview. That's a third of your grade. Discuss how the paralegal should interview a client. Create open-ended questions, explanations, show a high level of interview ideas. Questions were open-ended. Whenever you're interviewing a client and you're gathering facts, you want to ask a lot of open-ended questions. What did you see? Who did you talk to? What happened? What did he paint? You know, what did he bring to your house? You're not trying to lead the client. Like, leading question would be, he's lying, isn't he? That's a leading question. So when you're getting the facts out of a client, you want to ask open-ended questions. You know, where do you live? What is your name? What type of house do you have? What type of roof did he build? That kind of stuff. A third of your grade on this assignment is coming from describing the incomplete versus a complete offer, and argue both sides, because guess what? The law is not black and white. Judges see things very differently. Juries see things very differently. Human beings see things very differently. So you may start out with arguing, hey, this is a complete offer, and then say, but opposing counsel could say it's an incomplete offer because certain terms are missing. And we have a question. In the chat. Okay. And for the assignment, what are we writing? What questions should we be asking? Do you want us to add cases? Okay, so what questions? Well, here's the assignment. It is asking you, if you were the interviewer, if you're the paralegal and you're interviewing the homeowners about this oral contract to repair the roof, what questions would you ask them? Come up with 3 open-ended questions that you might ask your client in an interview. Often paralegals are asked to assist attorneys with the work that the attorney or the paralegal could do while the attorney is, maybe the attorney's off in court. Your supervising attorney might be doing legal research. Your supervising attorney might be on the telephone with a client. And as a paralegal assisting your supervising attorney, you have been asked to talk to some potential clients about a breach of contract case. So as a paralegal, you want to get as much information on paper as possible to build your case. So what questions would you ask your clients in a breach of contract case where they are saying that there was a contract to repair a roof, but the roof wasn't built? So the question is saying, come up with 3 open-ended questions that you might ask a client at a follow-up interview, and questions for documents that you might ask the client for. Could be about billing for the roof. Did you get any billing documents? Did the construction company give you any estimates? Did the construction company provide any other documents? Was there an email that was sent telling you the work was completed? So that kind of stuff. Did I answer your question, Trina? Everyone's still there? Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? So, there will be no live session question for module 1, but for module 2, there will be a live session question that you'll need to submit to get credit for the live session. So as it is now, each week on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, we'll be meeting for a live classroom session. This is a great opportunity, again, to get to know your classmates. I know you three already know each other. You can always ask me any questions. Students who attend the live session do tend to make higher grades, so I really appreciate the fact that you're here. If there are no other questions or concerns, I will see you all next week at the same place in the same time. And your written assignment is due on Sunday at midnight, Central Standard Time. Any questions? Thank you, Trina. Thank you, Stashana, and thank you, Stormy. Any questions about your assignment for Module 1?
If we had a question for you, do you prefer email or do you prefer on the Blackboard?
Blackboard email is faster. Anything that you send through the Microsoft email exchange, there could be a delay. So if you email your instructor through Blackboard, we get it right away. If it has to go through the Microsoft Exchange server for, your external email, I might get it. But to be honest, I get so many emails in that it might be hard for me to see it, and I won't be able to respond to you as quickly. You can use either one. You can also send me a text message. My number is 702-241-3415. Telephone.
Is your phone number listed too in the announcements?
Yes.
Oh, okay, perfect.
You can call me at any time. I've had students call me at 3 a.m. in the morning, 5 a.m. in the morning. If I
Oh
know it's
goodness.
you, I'll answer. If I think it's a telemarketer, I probably won't answer. But if I think it's you, I'll answer. So
Sounds good.
702-241-3415. You can always call me.
Oh, what happened?
Sunday answer sooner, then you need to send me a text message and say, hey, I sent you an email and I didn't get an answer back. So that often happens with students because I'm doing my full-time job on Saturday. So I won't see an email that you send on Saturday unless you let me know that you're sending one, because I won't be looking at my emails on Saturday. Might look at them on Sunday. So so you may need to let your instructor know if you don't get a response back in 24 hours. If you want an immediate response, send me a text message. I will get to that right away. My e-door is always open to you. And also, if you have any questions at all with your computer, call tech support. They're great. Tech support is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're great at solving all of my problems. Sometimes your computer glitches, software glitches. Sometimes you're having a hard time saving the file in the correct format and uploading it. Call tech support. They're always happy to help. Even if it's a password issue, you can't remember your password, tech support is great about all that. And their phone number is in the introductory email that I sent you. Well, this was a great live session. We covered everything that we needed to cover. Thank you so much for attending, and I will see you all next week, same time, same place.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trina. Thank you, Stashana. Thanks, Stormy. Have a nice week. Stay warm. Whatever you do, stay warm.
Night.